Welcome to the Golden Mike podcast, where personal growth simply isn't enough. I'm your host, Mark Cordone, a positive psychology coach, a do-gooder from the island of misfit toys who founded the Joy Revolution. Each week I'll wrap with an extraordinary guest doing extraordinary things through their own revolutionary work to talk about the ups, downs, and all-arounds of life. It's my mission to provoke and empower you through increased joy and inspire you to spark your own revolution to change history for the better. Welcome to the most serious happiness podcast in this multiverse. Welcome to the Golden Mike podcast. What is shaking, y'all? It is Mark Cordone. Welcome to the Golden Mike podcast. Another edition of the Golden Mike podcast with my buddy Erin Wathen. Erin Wathen, life and weight coach. Erin Wathen, yoga certified, masters in women's studies and sociology. I mean, you've done it all, Erin, and now you've hosted me in the house. How's it been for me to stay in this house? Have I ruined it? Is there poop tracks everywhere?
It's been an experience.
Yeah, I'm ready to go too. I'm ready to go too. No, I've had a blast here eating all your healthy foods, ordering Indian food at night.
Buffalo Wild Wings bag the other day.
Yeah, I killed the Buffalo Wild Wings while I was up here. That's what makes me happy, and my diet is Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah, we are going to talk about happiness. We're going to talk about diet and all that good stuff. But I just need to clear the air here. There was a period of time where we didn't talk for a good amount of time. And whose fault was that?
Yours?
For what? I knew you would say that. What? It was a good amount of time. What was it, like a year?
I think about a year, yeah.
I don't think it was my fault. I'm gonna air it right now.
We have like friend counseling right now?
Yeah, we're having friend counseling because we never talk about it. You just went dark on me.
I think your girlfriend didn't like me.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh yeah.
I don't think so.
I think that was it.
I don't think so. Everybody loves Erin, so
your ex-girlfriend did not like me.
I don't know about that. It
was part of it.
What was the other part?
I was a bitch to you.
Oh, look at that, Erin!
The combination wasn't very helpful.
Well, whatever's clever. I'm glad that we're buddies again. And so yeah, we are going to be talking about not only happiness, but happiness and diet. But Erin, we both grew up in like that period of time, like that grunge, MTV 90s period. So like, talk to me. Like, I don't think we've ever sat down and talked about your life story and how it got to the point where, you're now working with a lot of people when it comes to, weight coaching, when it comes to exercise and diet. Where did that all start out for you? I think you grew up Portland?
I was born in Portland, Oregon, but I was pretty much raised in California.
Okay, right on. Yeah, you want to talk closer to that mic.
All right, the Golden Mike.
The Golden Mike, exactly. So,
yeah, I was born in Portland, Oregon, but I grew up in California.
Okay. And at what point was it that diet and weight became important to you?
I just remember there being a very big focus in my extended family about, food, and yet you couldn't get fat. Like, what are we eating for dinner? But don't get a big butt. Like, it was this very weird mixed message thing. And I just was always fascinated with sugar. I remember like eating my entire Easter basket before we even left for church. And then my brother did it, and I felt embarrassed about that. Just very early memories of not being like other people when it came to sugar. And then my mother, I think well-meaning yet misguided, just never let us have it. Like, there was any sugar at all. And you're going to die when I tell you this story.
So where the hell did you get the Easter baskets from?
That was like a once a year thing because I didn't know how to live in a world with sugar. So when I was allowed to have it, I just binged. So my mother only let us have ice cream during the Cosby Show on Thursday nights at 8 p.m.
What a strange attribution theory.
But I mean, because it was like must see TV, right? So
Yeah.
well, let's have ice cream.
Aren't you? By the way, aren't you lactose intolerant?
There's that
too. What a strange combo, right?
I know you got some sexual weirdness, and then you have lactose intolerance.
Then you have
sugar. So
yeah.
You talk about that for a good hour right there.
We have officially gone off the rails. 3 minutes into the show, we're talking Cosby, and we're talking ice cream, but you're talking about imprinting too. You're talking about at a very early age this idea of either body image, or you're talking about self-perception or how others perceive you. I know you are also coming from a sociology and women's studies background. How did all of this in retrospect, how was that impacting your development in terms of your identity?
I think it's interesting, as you and I were talking about it in the kitchen earlier, about how is
over cookies.
Yeah, I was making cookies. About how women, now there's this whole body acceptance movement, which I think is a little bit misconstrued, but when we were growing up in the 90s, it was very much, fat-free and, all the grungy Kate Moss supermodel types. Mm-hmm. And that's not my body type. I'm more athletic. But there's definitely this aesthetic we were all supposed to aspire to. Well, if that's not your genetic, deck of cards, then you're pretty much SOL. But I do think as a woman growing up, at least the message I received was good is not eating. Good is being as small as possible. Good is taking up as much little room as possible. Well,
what do you mean by good? Like a good person?
Like you were good today if you didn't have ice cream. You were good today if you
So there was like weight. A morality.
There's a morality associated
Interesting.
with food. And where like women that were overweight, how can she possibly be happy she's overweight? Or you don't want to be like her, she's fat. So I think there's definitely almost, you could even go like dark side of the force kind of thing with like how growing up in at least California, there's such a huge obsession with what you look like. And maybe it's because you can wear shorts year round, I don't know. But when your entire self-worth is about how you look, it doesn't really make you value who you are as much.
No, that makes total sense. How was that playing out to you?
When I was a teenager?
Yeah, like at what point, it's one thing to be eating ice cream, watching, freaking,
Bill Cosby.
watching, that episode where he made the barbecue sauce that made.
My favorite episode is when Theo and Cockroach go on Soul Train.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was so good. They had those same 5 moves. I can only see you with your lactose intolerance trying to copy those moves. I know that you were doing it at the time.
Absolutely.
But at some point that starts to change where I don't know, you're watching a commercial and it's all, I don't know, a certain body type and you're like, ugh.
I have a very distinct memory of the summer between freshman and sophomore year of high school. And I was a little bit overweight, nothing drastic, but I didn't feel like I got enough attention from boys and I just felt kind of ignored in general. And I decided enough was enough. I was going to lose weight and come back the next year and look how I wanted to look. So at the time, I don't remember thinking I lost a lot of weight, but I lost 30 pounds over that summer. So 12
Holy
weeks,
shit.
30 pounds. And
how did you do that?
I remember eating a lot of fat-free yogurt. And I remember I would work out for an hour at lunch and an hour before I went to bed.
Okay.
So, and I kind of looked like a Q-tip because like my head was kind of too big for my body, kind of.
Still is.
Nice. A Pez dispenser to put my head back, a piece of candy came out of my neck. But when I came back to school, and I lived in a small town. My high school had like 100 people in my grade. A couple of them, of course, it was the guy teachers, thought I was a transfer student.
Because you were
I looked so
older?
different.
Okay.
Yeah. But right away, it was like guys that had written me off for years were like, let's go out. And I was always in like these advanced classes. I was a total dork, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I was a little bit more influential because I was thin and I was listened to more. And it was amazing how much power there was in being thin and how much...
And I bet you enjoyed that kind of...
Well, yeah, because I was ignored when I was chubby. So thin is power. Thin is authority. Thin is you get to decide. Well...
So the thought that was ingrained was skinny is good.
Yeah, skinny is good. But then you have the whole, like, how am I going to keep it off thing? And I didn't understand the science then. And everybody was screaming about fat-free. But what I know now is when you go on a crash diet, your body reacts. It's this whole evolutionary thing that happens. And so... your body tries to conserve energy, so it thinks it's starving, so it wants to survive on less calories. So what I did was make it really hard to maintain that weight. So it started off this yo-yo thing that I was doing off and on forever, where it was always either dieting, about to go on a diet, eating to a place where I needed to go on a diet, obsessing about my next diet for what felt like probably ever. Because when we don't make a lifestyle change and we don't change how we think, you're always somewhere on that dysfunctional roller coaster. But at the time I was like, yay, skinny.
Would you say that wasn't an eating disorder?
Absolutely was. I was obsessed with what I was eating. I had like these little calorie counts everywhere. I woke up in the morning, what am I going to eat today? Was I good today? Was I bad today?
Was I good or was I bad?
I'm serious.
Wow.
It was crazy. I was definitely bulimic my senior year of high school, just crazy stuff. And
now mentally, what was going through your head? Did it feel like it was out of control for you, or was it just you were just so obsessed with it?
Mentally, yeah, I did feel like I was out of control, but it also felt like every woman I knew.
She's belching.
No, I'm not.
Everybody.
I was thinking, every woman I knew. Dieting's their pastime. Dieting and obsessing with their weight and complaining about their weight is what we all talk about. Like I remember distinctly, like at the end of a holiday, like all my female relatives complaining about how fat they felt after Christmas, or sitting around my sorority.
The answer to that is stretchy pants.
There you go. I just remember in my sorority, like everyone talking about how fat they were, and no one was fat. It was just, it's what kind of everyone talks about. So it didn't feel that weird to me. And there were a lot of other girls who were doing the same exact thing when I was in high school and college. And even when I had my first daughter, women were constantly talking about getting back in their old jeans. So and I'm in my 40s now, and I've taught group exercise and now, clients or whatever. It's still all about your weight. People are still talking about like, being a skinny mommy and all this other stuff. And I recently went through a very hard, like personal time, and I lost a bunch of weight because I was really stressed out. And it was the first time in my life that I've ever had that happen to where it wasn't like an intentional thing. It was just pure out stress. And it wasn't a cute thing. It was just a icky thing. But there were still some people that said I looked good. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, this is bizarre, because there is a point where you're not healthy. There's a point where because you're stressed or because you're sick or because something is wrong. Like thin is not always best. Like healthy is best. But you still get those little dopamine hits of approval.
So what's funny is that it's almost the opposite for me. Is that when I feel either stressed or when I feel something coming on, or I feel a lack of control, I want to control it with eating. Well,
that's emotional eating. We can talk about that if you want in a second. Yeah. But I think it's almost like the other side of the coin. So like for me, when I'm really stressed, I'm not hungry at all. Like I have zero appetite. Other people,
opposite.
other people,
It's opposite day.
but other people, they want to eat. They feel this. And the thing is, it isn't even hunger. It's almost a distraction.
Yes.
Because if you're really hungry, you will eat an apple. If you're emotional, you only want Coke. You only want Buffalo Wild Wings. Yeah, you only want.
So good.
Shut up. You only want, a Carl's Jr. Buffalo Western bacon cheeseburger.
Now she's teasing me.
Yeah. But when you're truly eating out of hunger because you have to survive and you're a human being, you will eat, chicken or whatever. But when it's something else, and when we emotionally eat, we can definitely drill down on that for a second. It's a whole different phenomenon than when we're eating dinner and there's no emotion involved. It's a whole different thought process, a whole different mental thing that we go through, because I've been there a million times.
So it's totally different than
Absolutely.
than an eating disorder.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spectrum, right? So on one end you have straight up anorexia. On the other end you would have, 600-pound life people. But it's all different severities, because it's all misusing food.
Gotcha.
Or just the complete lack of food for control. But I think the difference between...
Is it all about control, that spectrum?
I think it's all about control, and there's a chemical reaction that happens with food that you cannot get away from. But when you're anorexic, then that becomes all about like your survival mechanism and exercise. And anorexia is much more complicated, because that's actually, it goes against human nature.
But I think maybe I took my notes wrong, but it sounds like there was a dopaminergic hit that you get with anorexia.
You do, but
so that is hitting the pleasure center.
It is, but the thing is like, I don't know if you know this or not, but one of the hardest...
I know it.
One of the hardest, psychological conditions to cure is anorexia, because it is so deeply ingrained in an anorexic, because it goes against human nature to not want to survive. So they are starving themselves to 80 pounds. And when I was writing my book, I went to a lot of Overeaters Anonymous meetings, and there are a lot of former anorexics in there, recovering anorexics. And these are women that, weighed 80, 70, in there for decades. And they would tell these stories of running in the middle of the night, or just doing, push-ups in the closet so their husband didn't notice, and just these things you can't even imagine, because they were just, it's all psychological. I mean, it presents physical, right? You can see what they look like, but it's actually in the head. But to circle back to, emotional eating versus, when you're stressed, you don't eat. That's different, because when we're in a 6-week or 6-month or whatever stressful period, and things are going really badly in our personal life or work life or whatever, if we overeat, for example, first of all, we always go for very, very over the top foods, very extreme foods, like high fructose corn syrup, white flour. I'm starting to drool, right? Things that are very much going to hit all those pleasure sensors and hit them hard. We go for volume, right? We go for things that go down easy, like ice cream or milkshakes. Nothing that's really complicated to eat. It's very, there's a certain flavor profile. While we do that, there's a couple of things that happen. First of all, the chemical reaction to the food, like I said, like your dopamine sensors hit, your blood sugar spikes, and your blood sugar crashes just as quickly as it spikes. It's a immediate gratification. It's instant gratification, but the problem is it's instantly up but instantly down. And then your problem is, what do you do with that? It's
a total hedonic hit, and then you go through a crash.
And then most people are like, well, they start looking around for something to do in their kitchen.
Yeah.
Right? It starts you in this kind of this hellish cycle of continually eating like crap. Because if you notice, like on the holidays, December 1st maybe you'll have a cookie here and there. By December 30th, it's just toffee for breakfast, right? Because it becomes easier and easier and
crumbs
easier.
laying around.
That's what I'm saying. It's like people just give it up. There's a chemical.
Crumbs and saran wrap.
Yeah, it's just bad news. But it's because there is a reason for that. It's not because you're weak or a bad person. It's because there's this whole brain thing that happens. But also, when we emotionally eat, it does this other thing that people often ignore. So if you're trying to not think about your relationship going bad just for argument's sake, and you just ate a bunch of Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever the heck you ate, then you have a problem you're okay with handling, you're okay with thinking about, versus, your marriage sucking, for example. Because then you can be like, I ate the Buffalo Wild Wings, I suck, I need to work out. That drama you're comfortable with.
So it materializes it almost.
Yeah, it's almost something like, I'm okay with this problem. I don't want to deal with, my marriage might suck, or I need to leave that job, or my kid has major problems. But the Buffalo Wild Wings and the trying to work it off in spin class, that is a doable problem.
You know what's funny is that it's almost like that quick dopaminergic hit. You keep doing that over and over, even to try to solve it. So like, you're like, oh, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to eat this wild wing, feel better,
Yeah.
And then crash. And then the next day, wild wing again.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like the cycle that started it, you use the same type of brain adaptation to try to stop it. Now for you, what was it that, what thoughts, behaviors, or beliefs did you have to change as a result of, becoming aware, like, oh shit, I'm on this up down crash diet, and I'm on the road to I don't know.
It's interesting because I had candy everywhere. I had candy in the center console of my car. I had candy in my nightstand. I had candy.
What are we talking about here? Are we talking about Mambas? Are we talking about Skittles?
I was definitely a high fructose corn syrup kind of sugar person.
So we're talking about Skittles?
No, I was more like sour stuff, like Swedish fish, nothing interesting. I mean, I know, not like, why, you don't like that?
Swedish fish are all right, but like if I have to go for the jugular, I think I would go with sour Skittles.
Well, those hurt your teeth.
God.
Whatever. Anyway, you asked me.
I hate that we're not friends anymore.
My point is I had candy all throughout the house.
Mm-hmm.
I had candy in the pantry. And at the end of the day, when my kids were making me nuts, that was like my reward. Or if I was in traffic, I would eat it. Or if, at night when I was in bed,
you were good.
I was good. I deserved it. Or, somebody was mean to me at pickup. Or, my mother wasn't nice to me on the phone, or it was Tuesday. It didn't really matter.
There you go.
And the thing is, too, is I also had a lot of things that no one ever pieced together. Like I was still having a lot of acne in my late 30s, and I was seeing the best dermatologist in New York. No one ever asked me what I was eating. I was still getting cavities. No one ever asked me what I was eating. And no one was ever piecing it together that like you're jacking up your blood sugar all the time. That's why your skin is clogging. Or that you're constantly having, acid sitting on your teeth all day. That's why you're getting cavities when you're too old, right? And I had to figure it out on my own. And I remember like seeing some, thing about like sugar and blah, 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 in all those magazines. And
was it an episode of A Different World?
It was actually an after school special. Tori Spelling. No, but it wasn't until I started really learning about that and becoming a health coach and actually doing a pretty solid evaluation of my own habits that sneaking food from, why would you yell at a 5-year-old if they catch you eating candy? Like, come on, that's not nice. And that's the way. I'm
having a bad day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I remember I used to always tell the kids I was donating their candy to firefighters after Halloween. And they didn't believe me. They're like, yeah, right, Mom.
Children about donating to the fire.
I did, though. But I definitely, sorted it before.
You probably gave them the corn candies.
Oh, the candy corn.
Candy corns,
or
and you got all the good ones.
Yeah, like the Mounds bars they could have, But anyway, I did give something to the firefighters. But my point is like even the kids knew that I was like nuts about it. So, right. But the way that I ended up not being such a mess about it was just realizing that I was judging myself for what I ate. I was, constantly thinking about food. My brain was obsessed with it. And I always say, like, once I stopped obsessing about food, I had so much extra room in my head that I was able to write a book and start a business. And because it takes up so much brain power or bandwidth or whatever you want to call it, when you're always thinking about what you're going to eat or what you don't like about your body or how much you weigh, that you can take that emotional energy and put it towards something productive. But
I don't see it as something that you can just shut off that quickly.
No, it takes time. And like I was saying, when I was really stressed out last year, and I was having the opposite reaction if I was, not feeling like eating, and I was stressed out. And I was kind of observing myself. It's a very yoga thing to say. I'm observing your thoughts. But I noticed that part of me was kind of like, this is cool, because there's old, very deep foundational messages of like thinner is better. And, when I'd go to the store and I'm like, do you have this in a smaller size? And the sales lady would, give me go suck it looks and stuff. And I liked that. But it wasn't, I shouldn't have weighed less than I weighed when I was in the 6th grade. I mean, that's not healthy, right? But logically, eventually when I started eating again and I felt normal and it's all fine now, but those things you're taught when you're a kid, even when you think you're over it, in times of stress, they do kind of flare up. Mm-hmm. So you can't just turn it off, because I think it takes time to rewire your thinking, especially when you're stressed out.
So would you say that a major part of it was taking that objective viewpoint of your life, being able to step back and be like, okay, let me look at myself outside of myself and see what's going on?
I had to completely change how I was eating, because a lot of my...
So you knew that even before you took an objective standpoint. You just knew that, okay.
And the thing is, a lot of the issues, a lot of the reasons people say diets don't work, it's because they only do half the work. If I could put you or anyone on a low-carb, high-fat diet, but if we don't get into what's not working in your life that made you gain 10, 20, 50 pounds, you're going to gain it back, because we haven't fixed what got you there in the first place, whether it be your commute's too long, or you really need to get a new job, or whatever it is, or you need to speak up more in your life. Because if you don't fix how you look at food, and you don't fix what's not working in your life, if you just do the food, mm-hmm. it's not going to work.
So this makes sense. You're talking about there really is a core challenge that's masked by the eating or masked by food. You try to correct the food. That's one thing. That's only half of it, though, what I'm hearing. The other half is going even deeper and getting to that core of things.
Yeah, because the other day when you found Oreos in my cabinet, I could tell you were just thrown. Because I have a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. Uh-huh. And you're like, why do you have these? And I said, my kids don't have food issues. Because they don't. Because they will eat an Oreo and walk away. When I was a kid, I could have never done that.
Num.
Right? But that's the thing, is that, if you're willing to be uncomfortable with, feeling anxious, feeling upset, feeling angry, and know that the cookie's not going to solve it, or whatever you think your coping mechanism of choice is, if you're willing to sit with the icky feeling, then an Oreo is not that special. Mm-hmm. And so, because I was raised in this extremely restrictive environment with food, and, like my kids, I often throw away ice cream because it's all like icky and gross, and there is no Cosby Show to watch anyway. But because I went out of my way to not make food good or bad or a reward.
Sure.
It was just food. I never let them, just eat junk all day. They had to eat, some fruits and vegetables and that kind of thing. There's not a lot of soda, much to your chagrin, but
I hate it here.
like it's a spa.
I hate it.
But I think with a lot of my clients, I always say, like, if you can take the drama out of the food, as soon as you start telling yourself stories about the food, like, well, I only ate a bite, and it was his birthday, and da 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 da. If you're still like obsessing over what you ate for lunch 3 days ago, like, what the heck happened? Or if you're worried about lunch tomorrow because they're going to have pizza, because I was have pizza at the meeting. Whenever you're like really spending a lot of brain power before or after you eat, like, you really need to think about like what's going on.
And oftentimes organizational culture, company culture doesn't make it that much easier because you get pizzas thrown at you, you get a whole thing of ice cold Cokes, for meetings, and then there might be this is probably early 2000s. They probably have healthy options now. But at the time, there wasn't a lot of healthy options. And I worked in the health office, so I think that's one thing. Hey, it's Mark. I hope you're digging the Golden Mike podcast. If you have or are just starting your own revolution fueled by joy, there's a site I created for you. If you, like me, believe that personal growth is simply not enough, if you, like me, are committed to changing history for the better in both micro and macro ways, check out joyrevolution.com. In there, you'll find an archive of our over 200 Golden Mike Live Facebook shows, and of course, our podcast that you're currently listening to. Check out the blogs highlighting how positive psychology and joy theory apply to your everyday life. There's even some cool clips from our Joy Revolution course geared towards influencers, speakers, writers, and change agents. It's all there. Go to joyrevolution.com. That's joyrevolution.com. Let's get back to the episode. I love the idea of taking the drama out of food. What I'm curious about is, let's say that we have mechanisms to take that drama out of food. What can we do to put the happiness, to derive happiness out of food? And not necessarily the happiness that's that hedonic up and down happiness, but what are some things that we can do that we can use food to enhance our happiness? It is the theme of the show, so. No,
I'm thinking what you're saying. I think, first of all, I know that in a lot of cultures, it's all about the food, right? Like Italians are always typically, people think about, Sunday dinner and the sauce and don't you love me and that kind of thing. That can be a trigger for a lot of people. Like I'll hear all the time, well, I'm Italian. Well, okay. You can still go to your grandmother's house and be with everyone and not overeat if you choose to. Like people always forget they have a choice.
You're killing me, Smalls.
They always forget they have a choice. And there's always like that point, like 2 or 3 bites into something where it all tastes the same. It really is. And you can sample everything but not eat all of it. So you can still have a couple bites of, whatever it is, but also...
And still feel that sense of belonging with the meal share.
Because nobody likes that pain in the ass. It's like, I don't eat this and I don't eat that. And take out their Tupperware and it's a sad piece of chicken.
I was going to say, that's kind of annoying. Snobbery and stuff.
Also, pick and choose your things. Like, don't have all the desserts. Like, have the one that you really like and have a couple bites of it. And when you do it, don't have it when you're standing up, you're not paying attention, and really appreciate it, and then be done with it. Like, don't make it a big thing. But I think where a lot of us get into trouble is we think we either have to be the annoying person that goes around telling everybody, I'm going to diet, look at my sad chicken breast, or wear our fat pants and just go for it. When there is a happy medium, because ideally you go to the family event or the wedding or whatever it is, you kind of think about, how do I want to feel when I come home? I want to feel good, or I want to, whatever. And okay, working backwards, how am I going to do that? All right, I'm going to have, I really care about the chicken parm, or I really care about the whatever. And I don't really care about, raviolis, for example. But I really care about chicken parm. And then think of you're going to have a lot of salad. There are choices. You have to kind of pick and choose. But also keep in mind, out of 21 meals a week, if that's only one meal, the other 20 meals you can choose to eat on point. Right. And I never say diet, but eat healthy, eat the right thing, make the right choices. So just because you're Italian or you have a big family or, we or whatever, you do have a choice. And also if you just stop stressing out about food, because I know people that get really freaked out about it, it will not be as exciting. I mean, if you stop thinking it as a good thing or a bad thing, and it's just food, it's supposed to just get us from A to B. It's supposed to just fuel our body. And when people say they're foodies, I just roll my eyes, because I think that's one of these trendy things that people used to say as a reason to eat a bunch of goat cheese and stuff. But you can like what you're eating, but you don't have to overeat it.
Sure.
I mean, there's a difference. There's a very happy medium from, eating nasty little, I always think of Soylent Green bars.
Soylent Green made out of people.
Right. Just to survive. And, I remember one time this person I know went to Italy, and all they talked about when they came back was the food. And I remember thinking, did you see anything?
Yeah.
Did you talk to anybody? Did you have a fun time, or did you just eat? Because hopefully you're enjoying the people you're with. Hopefully you're having a nice experience. At the end of the day, if you've ever been involved in a wedding or gotten married, no one ever looks back on their wedding and is like, wow, that food was great. You always think of what a good time you had, or what a good emotional response everything had, or how your mom or whatever it is. You don't think wow, that cake.
Oh, well, it's going to be different for me. When I get married, it's going to be sponsored by Fat Matt's Rib Shack.
But my point
that's why I'm going to get married 3 times.
No, but my point is that, so I don't know when you're going to post this, but we're recording it a week after New Year's. And if I asked you what was served, Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, you'll probably have a hard time. And that was 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So if someone got married 10 years ago, they're not really going to remember what they had.
Oh, they'll remember Fat Matt's.
No, but not your wedding. But I'm saying my point is that at the end of the day, you remember how you felt. You remember your experiences. You remember the emotional.
Sure. They remember the dance.
But if you can't let yourself be open to the emotions because you're too busy having this crisis in your brain about the wedding cake and you're not the one getting married, that's a problem.
It's a bit myopic, right? You're kind of missing the moment for not deprivation. Deprivation. Yeah. So you are talking about increasing ways to maintain sort of the culture, the culture and relational aspects of food, because that is such a big part of our day to day. We're coming over. Well, what are you bringing, right? I remember leaving my aunt's house when I was down in Florida. She's like, "Are you sure you don't want to stay longer?" And I'm like, "I'm good. We have cassava cake," right? And I'm like, "I guess I'm staying," right? So there's those pieces. And I also know that with these either crash diets, there is a link to eating certain foods on a regular basis and that having some sort of effect on your either brain chemistry or your mood, right? So, for example, I can't think of it right now, but there are studies that have been done on if you eat too much of a certain food, you tend to be more prone to depression.
Yeah, processed foods, fast foods, anything that's basically not a whole food. And by whole foods, I mean like piece of chicken, like something that you can discern what it is. Anything with a lot of chemicals in it, because the thing with a lot of these foods is, if you think about it, they're processed, partially digested, right? It's hard on your body. Everybody doesn't know what to do with it. And the thing is, your body sees it as inflammation. So all disease starts as inflammation. So it's hard on your body. It stresses your body out. It lowers your overall satisfaction. I mean, there's a lot of studies that correlate, aggression in teenagers and diet. Like, it's just crazy things. Like, as soon as they take out the soda machine in like, junior highs and replace it with, Hint water or something, the fights go down. Like, there's a lot of correlation between, processed foods, junk foods, whatever you want to call them, and just people's overall happiness. And the bizarre thing is, people will go to these foods because they deserve a treat, because they deserve a little energy bump.
And by happiness, you're talking about that hedonic short burst happiness.
Meaning the instant gratification that instantly comes, instantly goes. I remember when I used to work in an office, that energy slump around 3, right? You have lunch and you're kind of feeling tired. And so you start thinking like, what's in the break room, or what can I get? And, you're kind of bored too. Like, let's face it. So you're, from a, biochemistry point of view, you're better off having like, and I know it's not exciting, like almonds and like an apple, right? People want a Snickers bar. They just want a Snickers bar because it's sugar and it's fun and it's like, compact, and they, all the advertising. But the Snickers bars are better for you than a bag of Skittles, because at least the fat is going to slow down your blood sugar, right? You're looking all romantic thinking about the Snickers bar. But
my eyes are glazing over right now.
But you're better off ideally taking a walk around the block or standing up. But if you absolutely want to eat something, you're better off sticking to foods that, your grandmother would recognize or whatever. But we're told you deserve a break, you deserve a treat. So here, have some candy.
It's so interesting, because like that idea of you deserve a break, it's almost like the default is pain and punishment, right? Stop for a second. Take this candy from me. You know what I mean? It's really, really interesting, and also when you're talking about things like almonds and those sort of things, you're not gonna get the immediate burst, but maybe that is the solution. Because what is the opposite of a hedonic lifestyle? One where you're going up and down. The opposite of a hedonic lifestyle is what Aristotle calls a eudaimonic lifestyle, one in which you feel like you're living a good life. And I wonder, when you started moving to foods like that, when you started moving to a diet like that, and you started changing the core of, well, it's not good or bad, it just is. And that's my way of living a good life. If that's where the shift started happening for you.
Absolutely. I just remember, like, before, when I was eating that way, I didn't really like what I was doing. I would just sit around my house thinking of little projects to make the house better. And just,
so you walked around the kitchen too.
You know what I'm saying? Just that was, my thought process was different. Like, my friends were different. Everything was different. So I think it is very simplistic, but you change your food, you change your life. And with a lot of these things that seem like cliches or very simplistic or whatever, it is so true, because you are what you eat. Mm-hmm. And if you're feeding your body like these chunky foods because it's really quick and it's really easy, well, think about it. Like, your cells are derived from the Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm going to really ride this one hard. And
that's what she said.
Yeah, right? Totally. And she liked it. But no, but the thing is, it's like, that's what becomes your cells and your thought process and your everything. So if you're fueling your body with the best food possible, and you're not creating this food story and this food drama because you liked it and it was tired and Connecticut's full of people that bug you or da-da-da-da. If it's just chicken, you don't think about it again. You're not creating this whole story that like clogs up your brain. It's a lot easier. But when I used to go to all these yoga retreats, right? Mm-hmm. And I just remember always feeling so good at the end. And a lot of it, I think, is because they feed you all this, like, kale and all these, like, locally sourced vegetables, and everyone around you is really nice, and you're getting all the sleep because there's no electronics. But I do think a lot of it is because you are with really nice people and you're eating really nice food in a really nice environment. And that does matter. Like, if you're stressed, don't eat. Not right now, but I'm saying, like, give it 20 minutes. Because if you digest it when you're, like, your stomach hurts or you're feeling angsty, it won't digest right. And if you want to get all woo-woo energetically, why are you bringing it into your body in a time of feeling out of alignment, right? So if we can just think about things a little bit more than just the instant gratification of a Snickers bar, then it'll make things a lot easier long term.
This is what I'm picking up. Let me see if you're throwing it down. So to live a happy, good life is not necessarily one where you're fixated just on eating right or not eating right. It's one where you literally are living a good life surrounded by other people living a good life. For example, going to Italy, having the food, but also noticing that you're in Italy.
Yeah, I mean, okay, how often do I talk about food?
This is probably the most I've ever heard you talk about it.
I never talk about food.
Yeah.
I never talk. I don't.
It drives me crazy because that's all I want to talk about.
You're like, when are we eating? No, because I think when you put the focus on the people in your life and you stop obsessing over what you weigh or what you're eating or if that's good or, I used to work for Weight Watchers, and they made me go to this convention one time. And they brought out these...
I'm feeling passive-aggressive attitude towards Weight Watchers right now.
No, I definitely have an issue with Weight Watchers. Okay. I'll get to that later if you want. But so we're sitting at this table, and I remember they had these really cheesy videos about their, like, packaged food or whatever. And they brought out these desserts, and there was this little sad little cake, and there was clearly Cool Whip on top of it because it had that smell. Yeah. So no one's like, I think it's whipped cream. And I'm like, it's Cool Whip. So nobody would eat it until we got confirmation it was Cool Whip. So there's 8 people just staring at this nasty little, like a brick. Well, because I started thinking, like, what if it is whipped cream? Like, I don't want to eat it either. So, like, I didn't want to be the one to eat. So I'm saying it can be, you can get in this really weird psychotic place if you're surrounded by people that are like, well, it could be whipped cream.
It's totally neurotic.
Totally. So I think if you put the focus on the people, you're a lot more likely to have a happier life than what you eat, But I know that, it's very easy, especially like with families, if the culture is what's for dinner, what's for dinner,
sure.
what's for dinner. And if you can just dial that back a little bit, maybe throw in a little more activity to Thanksgiving or a little more activity to the vacation.
Like fighting.
Let's fight. Let's fight about when I was a child, because that's a better use of our time.
Let's
Mom always liked you better.
Let's break bread over how we didn't talk for a year.
No, but I think, for example, like I went on vacation with someone a couple months ago, and I remember.
What'd you eat?
I don't know. Food.
I'm just kidding.
And then I came back. They were like, I've never not gained weight on vacation before. And I was like, really? Yeah, I guess it's because I didn't overeat, because you don't overeat. And I was like, crazy. And you still had fun, It is possible to not just eat away the holidays or eat away a vacation if you're actually interacting with the people in your life and listening to them and being present. And it's a lot easier to be present if you're not jacked up on sugar.
Yeah.
Or, constantly going from blood sugar extreme to blood sugar extreme. And I know that it seems kind of bizarre to say you have a much better life if you eat better, but you will. And if you're in this weird place of like, how do I even start? Which I get. It sounds really annoying. Like, why would I have to cut out sugar? It's the only thing I do, or it's the only thing I like, or leave me alone, or whatever. Start cutting out the things that you like the least. Like for me, there were a lot of things that I was like, it doesn't mean that much to me. Like, I don't really like donuts. I know some people love donuts. I've thrown away stale donuts before because I don't like them.
Stale donuts are no good.
No, but I'm saying like donuts, I don't like at all. Other people, they break for donuts. But for me, like, candy's a problem. So
candy's kind of a problem.
It's a problem. So, so if you just sort of eliminate the things that you're just eating because you're lazy, or eating because it's easier, or eating because it's in your world. Like when my kids were little, there's always little snacks around.
Yeah.
And I would like, eat everything. But, that kind of thing is a good place to start. And then just adding in more food and adding in more high fat food. And the reason I say high fat foods are because they will fill you up and keep your blood sugar stable. So don't just start doing the keto truffle thing, which is a whole other mess of like the fake sugars and stuff, but adding in more avocados, or adding in more coconuts, or adding in, food from the actual outside of the grocery store, meaning the perimeter, versus, bag of Cheetos or whatever. And you don't have to be perfect to have progress. So I think some people think it's like all or nothing, right? I'm either, Taco Belling it, or I am doing nothing but Whole Foods. Well, you can, you can experiment with it, and it's okay if it takes you a while, because it's a process, right?
Yeah.
And there will be times where, you might just say, screw it, and have a bite of something, and it's not the end of the world. But just pay very close attention to what happens, because no matter what anyone says, or the whole cheat day phenomenon, or any of that stuff, there will be a thing that happens to your body that you cannot get away from. And oftentimes people are like, well, it's just, what's the big deal if once in a while you have a piece of cake or whatever? Well, the best analogy I could come up with, and I know it's not mine, someone told it to me once, is you wouldn't tell an alcoholic they can get drunk on their birthday. Because if you reintroduce sugar, meaning, high fructose corn syrup, or the white stuff, or whatever that, your body is going to remember how fun it was. And there's something that happens with your body when, its actual terms escaping me, but basically when your body is reintroduced to an extreme food like sugar, it makes it seem better than it is. It's why relapses with addicts are always so more intense, because your body's like, this is great. So it actually seems to taste more
better than it was the first time.
If you've ever like gone on some sort of like 21-day thing, or 30-day, Whole 30s are always a great example, right? People do the Whole 30s for a wedding, or some challenge, and then they decide to like just go on a bender on day 31, and they're like, everything tastes so great. Well, it does taste very intense, partially because your taste buds are used to kind of not as over the top foods. Of it, yeah. But your body is also like making it taste better, so you keep feeding it that.
Okay.
Because it's so excited.
My guess is that phenomenon wears off.
It does, but enough just to get you into it.
Oh, the body's a genius.
The body's a pain.
The body's a genius. I hope you enjoyed the Golden Mike podcast. There's more good stuff coming your way. But until the next episode, let's stay in touch, yes? Find us on Instagram as The Joy Rev, or communicate with like-minded revolutionaries in our Facebook group. Search The Joy Revolution Underground. And of course, don't forget to check out the classes, articles, blogs, and some serious fun at joyrevolution.com. That's joyrevolution.com. Now, until then, what will you do to change history for the better? Let's go out and play, shall we? Press start to begin.